Hello and welcome back again to Lutys Chainsaw Mods. I've got here me cs5800, the 58cc Husqvarna clone chainsaw. This is the one that I've tuned up. It runs really well now. She's nearly double the power output that it was. My favourite saw this is really. I mean, I've got a few stills, and I prefer this one because it's lightweight and really powerful. Now it is. I mean, the only issue I ever had with this, I've done videos before on this one. I've shown the problems that you get with the Chinese saws. I've got around all them with this now. It's pretty reliable, and I concentrated on tuning it up, getting the power up as high as I could without going too stupid. I mean, it's at the end of the day, all my saws, they're not hot rods, they're usable saws. I just like to get a fair bit more power out of them without being silly with, you know, lightning con rods and creating turbo cranks and lightning pistons. You know, I've ported it, I've raised the compression, I've put a carburetor on it off it's a Husqvarna 372 70cc Husqvarna. It's originally, well, I'll show you, I'll show you what I want to do. This is the point of this, basically, is I said that after I finished this, I did some videos on different mods that I've done, and I actually managed to build a really good inlet manifold for it, which made an enormous amount of difference to this. So I'll strip it down for you and I'll show you stage by stage what I did. I'm not going to take the cylinder pot off at this stage. At the end of the day, all I've done to the cylinder is I've ported it, which, you know, it's everybody's choice how they do that. So I'm not going to sort of tell people how to suck eggs. You know, it's ported, it's got raised compression, but I want to show you the stuff around the outside, and I'll show you me short expansion chamber. Then I might do another video directly after this showing you in theory how that expansion chamber works, because obviously people will think, well, it's got to be a certain length to be an expansion chamber, and technically it has, but you will see when I do the video of the theory of how it works. It definitely creates more power. Whether it could create as much power as a standard expansion chamber is a bit debatable. It sounds nice and crackly when you run it, and it's definitely added power to it. So I will show you in theory how that works. So if you want to make one for yourself, you can. And the idea is, as I said before, I like to try and keep them fairly standard. You know, all right, I've got that expansion chamber on the front, but it's not really a lot different to a normal muffler to look at. It's not much bigger or anything. And the other thing that's visibly different is the open top with a sponge on it. So other than that, it just looks like a normal cs5800 chainsaw, that's what I'm going for, really. You know, that's what I like. So I'll do a bit of a strip down now and I'll go through what I've done. So first of all, the top box, put a filter sponge in. Now this was the last thing I did on my modifications, and I discovered that because the air filter is really close to the top, as you can see, I needed to open the top up. So that's what I did, and I just basically I cut some holes in it there and there, left a band across the middle there where the sticker is to give it some strength. But it's you know, it lets air through lovely now, and all it is, it's a piece of sponge, thinnish sponge, just glued into there, and that's it. So that's number one. Now the second thing I did, this is the original air filter of the CS5800. It was a Timber Pro model, this one, and it was the second saw I ever owned. This saw's I don't know, probably 15 years old or getting on that way. But so this is the modified air filter, which basically I bought from China. All I did is look across the internet, see what I could see, and this one was shown to fit this. Now technically it doesn't fit it, but I made it fit it. So that's the standard one. So as you can see, it's enormous compared to the standard one. So because this is producing a lot more power now, it needs to breathe better, and that seems to do the job nicely. So I'll just get that off and I'll show you what I had to do to this to actually modify it to get it to fit. So originally it was slightly longer than this, only just a little bit longer, but it had like a sort of almost a plastic nose on the end there. And to get it to fit under the cover, I had to chop that piece off, which obviously left a hole along here. So all I've done is glued on a piece of sponge on the end so it can still breathe through that section. It's got, obviously it's filtered underneath as well. You've got filter meshes under there, and all across the top. So it is definitely a lot better than the original one. Breathes a lot better. The other thing, which I'll show you. I'm showing it backwards really, but the standard ram stack that mounts the carburetor, on this one, as you'll see, it's got an enormous hole in it. Now I cut all the middle out of that, but what I also had to do, because a lot of people were saying with these originally that they'd suck dirt and what have you up through here, because this is just sealed with like a rubber gasket normally in there, and there's like a ring in there, and the gasket sits on there, and to be honest with you, I always used to grease mine and I found them all right, but what I needed to do was make this a lot wider. So what I've done, I've cut all the middle out pretty much completely, and instead of it sealing inside here on a gasket, it now seals on this whole edge here with an O-ring, which is on here. Look, there's an O-ring all the way around there. I fitted an O-ring, see, and it does seal. I've got grease around it, but it does seal perfectly. I don't have no problems with that. There's no dust gets in there. So let's just get this top off now. I'll show you what I do inside. Not bad to work on, to be honest, these. I mean, I haven't had a lot to do with Husqvarnas, but looking at stuff on YouTube, they are pretty similarly built in design. to Husqvarna's. I know, like I say, this one's 58cc, and I think it's equivalent to the 372, the shape of this one, with the dome top and what have you. It's similar to the 372 in style, but this is, instead of it being 70cc, this is only 58cc. But it is nice and powerful now, this saw, it really is. Okay, so that's that off. Let's just get that out of the way, that boot. Now, right, I'll bring you over here now so you can just hopefully have a nice look at it. Right, so that's it. So this carburetor is is designed for a Husqvarna 372 70cc, and it's deeper. I did a video on it showing how to fit this carburetor. I mean, one of them was this showing this pulse line here. I've had to put you see, I've put an elbow there, look. So I'll just show you how it is, how it actually does fit. So there's an elbow that you have to make there, your pulse line, and I did make an elbow, which you can't see very good here, it's down here for the fuel line, but it is all on my other video. Now the only other thing I wanted to show you was the fact that this carburetor now is a slight downward slant because of the manifold that I made for it, which is how you want these really, because what they should do is push in the fuel air mixture in a downwards trajectory, so that the fuel air mix goes straight into the crank. That's, you know, so ideally if you can get them slightly slanted like this, so you have to make your manifold like this, which I've done. So it's now obviously raised this end up, so this end is no longer, well, wouldn't have been supported, but I've got a piece of rubber and I've jammed that underneath, and with this stack screwed down, it's nice and tight and firm. So that's how I've got around that problem. Okay, so I will just get the I'll get the stack off now. I'll get the stack off and just quickly show you that. Realise I'm only stripping my saw for you guys. There's nothing wrong with this saw, it runs really well, but I'd just like to share this with you. I know I was interested in stuff that other people have put on YouTube, and hopefully you'll be interested in this and what I've done. See, that rubber's really tight. There you go, that rubber's out now. Carburetor's loose because the bolts that hold this in hold the carb in as well. Just trying to free the carb here now. I've sealed the stack onto the carburetor with some RTV silicone, so it's a little bit, that's it, it's gone now. Now, one thing with these, if you're porting for power, everyone says, they say, oh, polish the hell out of everything, you know, everything's got, all the ports have got to be polished, blah 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 blah. Now, polishing helps airflow, okay, but so with this, you've only got air coming in through the air filter, through there, in through the carburetor, and then into the motor. Okay, so if you've only got air going through here, yes, polish it, because that will, this hasn't been polished. I might do it before I put it back on. I've just literally ground it out, so it's bloody as big as it can be, really. So I might polish it, I'll have to see. But when you get from your carburetor further in, you should not be polishing it. The exhaust end, you can polish your exhaust end, because if nothing else, it'll stop the carbon sticking, okay, on your exhaust end. And it will help flow slightly through the exhaust, okay? Not really noticeable, because at the end of the day you're going to get carbon sticking to the walls anyway, so it won't stay polished for more than about 10 minutes. I mean, polish it if you want, but I'm just saying it's not going to do it any harm if you polish it, but it's a bit of a waste of time doing the exhaust port, in my opinion, you know. So I'm just going to show you now with an inlet manifold, or inlet boot, depending on what you want to call it, whatever it is on your saw. You'll notice specifically, I don't know about a lot of saws, but because I only own some Chinese saws, and I own 2 or 3 stills, okay? So I only really know about the stills more than anything. Now if you look inside an inlet boot on a still, you'll see it's got like stipples in it. It's not smooth, and they haven't put that there just because it's a casting mark. They put that there for a reason, and the reason is you polish an inlet manifold. Now if it's fuel injected, where your injector is direct injection or whatever, it's not going to make a difference. You still only got air going through that manifold. But with a carburetor, the manifold has fuel going through it, okay? Now if you get fuel and air going through a tube, if you like, a polished tube, what happens is the fuel, because there's a difference in temperature between your fuel and your inlet manifold, or your tube, or whatever you want to call it, because there's a difference in temperature, what it does, it attracts the fuel out of the air mix, and it sticks to the polished surface. It condenses on the surface, so you get droplets of fuel coming out of your fuel air mix on a polished surface. But that, like I said, that is only if you've got something where the fuel and the air is going through. If you've only got air going through, like on the stack, that's fine, you can polish that because there's no fuel going through it. But obviously there's fuel going through where your carburetor is, so you really should not be polishing it, because it will pull out the fuel from the fuel air mix. Okay, so that's one reason. Now the other reason you shouldn't be polishing an inlet manifold with a carburetor engine is because the slightly rough surface, because it doesn't want to be very rough, but you just don't want to polish it. The slightly rough surface, as the fuel air mix goes through, it causes swirl against the surface, and that swirl on the surface keeps the fuel suspended in the air mixture better and keeps it away from the sides. Okay, so then it will not, that also helps it stops it condensing on the polished inlet manifold. Almost got this carby off. Okay, so there's my 372 carby. Now it's got the heat shield stuck to it at the moment. If you'll see inside there, look, the butterfly on this carby, even though it is a bigger one, I have ground all the bolt head and the thread heads and the bar, the spindle on the butterflies. They're all ground pretty much flat to maximize airflow. Okay, so that's worth doing. Yeah, it might weaken it a little bit, but as long as you leave some of the head on, then should be fine. Well, this one has been anyway. I've used this quite a bit, and the same that side. So your choke flap and your throttle butterfly, slim them down, take the bolt heads down. Lovely. Okay, so I think, see, with this inlet manifold as well, you need to be, if you do decide you're going to build one, you need to be measuring the length and everything. Well, I can measure this for you. I'll you know, if you have got a cs5800, I'll tell you the dimensions of it, and then you can make your own if you want. Now, one thing, I did a video on this a while back, and I said that the manifold needs to be made out of, it needs to be rubber mounted. Now, okay, yeah, it probably would be best if it was rubber mounted, to be fair, but I found it pretty impossible to make it. There's not enough room really to make it rubber mounted. Okay, so I built a solid steel one. I found it impossible, so I just ended up I built the solid steel one. You know, it works really well, like this does. I had to do it at the end. It wasn't my first choice, but I had to do it that way. I'll best show you this actually. When the heat shield or firewall, whatever you want to call it, I mean, this is pretty standard. This piece here, the cardboard piece. But what you have to do, because you need to refit your heat shield really, and what you have to do is let's just get this torch set up. Sorry. You have to oh, there you go. So what you have to do is you have to cut quite a large hole in the heat shield, because what you do is you fit the manifold first, then you'll put the heat shield on. You'll cut a hole in so you can get the heat shield on, the actual plastic section of it, and then to fill some of the gaps, I just got a piece of thin rubber there, which I basically screw to the heat shield. Okay, so that's your thin rubber, just to try and minimize the gaps around here, because you need to really, if you have too much of a leak around here, you're going to get, potentially you could get warm air coming from your cylinder into the chamber where your carb fits. But more than that, because this saw is now way up on the power, you're gonna lose air pressure. You're gonna lose air pressure from your cooling fan, so you're not gonna cool the cylinder as well as you really. Ideally, it's a good idea to keep as much air as you can going through across that cylinder, especially if you've modified it like this one, because at the end of the day, more fuel, more air going in, more power, more heat. Yeah, it's as simple as that. Like, so let's just pull off this rest of this guard, the heat guard, and then I will show you. Get to the manifold then, hopefully. Let's got the heat guard out. Now where is the other screw? It took me quite a while to do all this, get it all to fit, because you haven't got much space really. You know, it's a small chamber in here, fitting a bigger carburetor, you know, and the manifold, a much bigger manifold, a solid manifold. Well, let's just show you manifold in situ. Okay, so there's the manifold in situ. Okay, it is steel, and obviously I've just painted it really. Just go and get you. I'll go and show you the original one, and you can find it. Find the original one. Oh, it is. Okay, so there's your original one. So there's the big one, and where are we? So there's the big one, and there's the original one. Okay, so it's a lot bigger, heck of a lot bigger. I'm going to get it off now, and I'll show you off the motor, and you'll see what I mean. It's maxed out, this inlet manifold. Just remember which way up it goes. Just put a little mark on it so I know which way up it goes actually. Okay. Okay, so there's the manifold, look. That's the manifold. There's the port that it comes off. So basically I shaped it to fit that port exactly. Now this, hang on a minute. So there's the two manifolds, heck of a lot bigger, as you can see. Made a huge difference, especially because I've now got a bigger carby on it. That side's obviously the same, but what I did with it as well is I've increased the inside dimensions of this. Yeah, I've increased the inside dimensions of this. So if you look inside here, you will see, I don't know whether Huskies are like this, but if you look inside there, can you see that like wedge at the top there, triangle shape? It's like a slope. And the reason for that is because when the piston goes right up, that slope, as the air comes through the carb and the manifold, that slope encourages the fuel air mixture to go down into the crank. That's what that actually does. So what I did, I've made this manifold, inlet manifold, as really quite wide, a bit wider than necessary on purpose, because what I wanted to do is allow obviously the fuel to go through as normal. Now inside the top here, in there, I have welded another ramp. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, so I'll get something to point with. Might be able to show you. Okay, so what I've done, I've made it as big as possible between here and here. It's as wide as possible, okay? And I've done it on purpose because what I don't want is for the fuel air mix to jet at that angle, hit that triangle shape on the inlet port, and then just be forced down, because what it's going to do is slow the velocity down of the fuel air mixture, okay? And I didn't want that. So what I've done, I made it wider, so instead of the air jetting through like that, it can just, you'll get reduced pressure inside as it comes in, and it should be able to change angle a lot easier than being forced to change direction against that triangular shape. So what I also did, just inside here, I've welded a slope that finishes right on the end, but it goes further in and up, if you like. So in there, as it goes in, there's a slope almost like that, if you like. So as it just goes in, the fuel air mix goes down the slope slightly down the slope. As it goes in through the port, it then hits that shape. It's already in a downward trajectory. it hits that triangle shape and goes down even further. So it should actually increase the velocity, because instead of it just going bang down, it's now already orientated downwards as it hits this triangle, and that just pushes it down further. That's the theory of it, but I'll tell you, this, compared to the other manifold, I mean, I did loads of modifications to this saw, the raised compression. It got raised compression. Ported at I didn't port the inlet manifold because it's pretty big, to be fair. And I knew the restriction was, it was heavily restricted with this tiny inlet manifold that it originally had. I knew it'd make a big difference. So yeah, it's ported, raised compression, and the expansion chamber, and obviously this inlet stack, velocity stack, been opened up and everything. It's made a big difference, a whole lot has. But this manifold, I think, was the biggest. It really released the power from the bigger carburetor, and it went up a fair bit, the power did. So that's that. Now, the other thing I wanted to quickly show you, hopefully, is the expansion chamber. I'll try and show it you, but we'll see how we get on. Depends whether or not you can see much, I'll be honest. What I might do is do a little video of with some drawings of how it actually works theoretically, and then you'll sort of understand what I was trying to do. But again, this also did increase the power, and it was not because, I don't think it was because I've obviously added an outlet pipe at all, which I will explain to you my reasoning for that. Okay, so here's my expansion pipe, expansion chamber. Now, it's a standard muffler. When this comes as a standard unit, you just have these two outlets here, okay, and this section here was just basically flat. There was a baffle inside, so what I did, I cut all the way around here, okay. I chopped any baffling out, completely emptied it, left these two outlets in, and originally I fitted a sonic cone on here, which obviously echoes the fuel back in. Now, that alone, without this outlet pipe, brought up the torque but lowered the speed. So I put the outlet pipe in, and the outlet pipe is set just inside. I'll measure that for you. Okay, so actually, Measure how deep it is. Okay. So it's deeper than I thought actually. It's okay, it's 59 mil. So the sonic cone was on here originally. Like I said, that brought down the speed of the saw, but brought up the torque massive. Okay, so I knew that sonic cone, because it's directly in line with the exhaust port, the sonic cone was working. So then I thought, well, okay, so we need to bring the speed up now. So I put I drilled a hole in the end of the cone. Now the pipe I put in is smaller than this outlet pipe. The outlet pipe is there just to direct the I've got a piece of pipe somewhere, I think. Pretty sure I have, just got to find it. A little piece of it here. Yeah, there's a little piece of it here, so let's just see. Okay, so it's 13 mil, this outlet. So the outlet pipe originally was just level with the end of the sonic cone, and it was a piece of 13 mil inside diameter pipe. And it's set away from the exhaust port by 60 mil. And it did increase the power. The power was increased initially by the cone, as it holds back the exhaust and stops any fuel air mixture coming out. Now the chamber section, the pressure relief was controlled in the chamber by the two outlets, and this exhaust outlet here just helped continue with the flow to bring the speed up, and this really works. So yeah, that's it. So I hope you enjoyed the little look around me performance saw, me CS5800. Thanks very much for watching. I'll do a better explanation of this exhaust using some drawings next time. I've got plans to build an expansion chamber with adjustable outlets, but that'll be when I build my dyno. I've got plans to build a chainsaw dyno, and once I've built that, I've bought another muffler, and I'll build a muffler with adjustable holes, so adjustable outlet, using a sonic cone and adjustable chamber pressure relief, so I can control the pressure relief of the actual chamber, and I can decrease or increase the flow through the outlet, which is basically what an expansion chamber does. It does all that, but actually getting it tuned correctly for your saw with that certain sized motor and the speed that you want the power at, you need to be able to tune, because it's just you guessing otherwise. But that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to build one that I can actually tune, adjust, but then I'll do that and I'll run it on a dyno and I will adjust it, and once I've got it peaking on its power, I'll do a little video of what I've done, show you what I've done. Okay, so thanks for watching Lutys Chainsaw Mods again, and bye for now.